right. So this is going to be a unique style of podcast this time. We are doing one on Monday night. Um, let's say I'll probably release this about Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on when I have time to do it. I'll also have Lex also before I publish it. I want her to listen to it to see if anything needs to be changed, and then we can come back and change anything we need to. So this will be there is a 10-part series. Over the next 10 weeks, I'll be releasing one part per week, just so the everybody has an option ability to figure out your backstory. And I know you wanted to talk to a lot of people about everything that you went through because for the whole year I know you, it's been crazy. And when you told me some of the backstory that you didn't tell anybody else, it gets deep. And I think this gives you an outlet to not only help with your therapy, but also help in the aspect of people knowing who you are and won't be able to come at you sideways like everybody else.
That's
So,
yeah.
so let's start. This is how about we start like this. Since there's no editing, it's uncut, it's unfiltered. Why don't you just tell how who you are?
Who I am.
Yeah, just give a brief introduction so people that don't know you can know who you are. At least let's just say it's like a high school introduction.
Oh, okay. All right. A little bit about me. Um, well, I'm 26. I'm old, but I'm not. Uh, I am the oldest of a total of 7 kids, between both my biological parents. Um, I'd say I'm very overprotective over people I care about. Um, I'm goofy. I love dark humor. I love anything that makes me laugh. I joke about anything, everything. It's hard to take me seriously sometimes. But I'd say overall, I'm just a protective, loving, funny, caring person. Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. One thing I do know about Lex, she is very protective. She is very loving, and if she does care about you, she makes it known.
Very
Um,
much.
absolutely. So you were talking about your parents. So why don't you go into detail on who your parents are?
All right. I'm gonna be honest with you. I hate bringing up the fucking point of origin for me. So how I'm gonna go ahead and say this. All right. My mother, she she was a young mother. Uh, and my father, I don't really know very much well of. I do, but I don't. Um, so my mom comes from. She's lived most of her life in uh Indiana, and she moved down to Florida, and that's where she met my biological father. My mom was a teenage runaway, so she ran away from home because she was like abused from her stepfather. Um, and she ended up meeting my biological father, who happens to be way older than her. Um, he was on house arrest for charges, and she thought it'd be cool to be staying with a bad boy, I guess you could say. Um, but how I came to be was um, basically my mom was raped at a really young age by my father and got pregnant with me, and she ended up getting away from that situation. So a little fast forward on that one. Well, that's just my mother. For my biological father, my biological father is known as a sexual predator. He is a registered rapist. He's had numerous victims. Um, I'm the only child that he conceived out of rape. Um, but his other 2 kids, he was in a relationship with that he had, and his son, which is my brother, is not much younger than me. So around the time my mom got pregnant with me, he had a girlfriend that was already pregnant with my brother. Well, got pregnant a little bit after. My bad. Um, well, as far as that goes, my mom ended up meeting my stepfather. My stepfather is actually who I call my father because he raised me. Um, my stepfather is he's I guess you could say he's who I got most of my dark humor from. My the way I laugh about things. Um, my stepfather's from Florida, born and raised kind of thing. But he didn't become my father until he was 21 years old, and my mom was 16 at the time, and they ended up getting married. So right after my mom got pregnant with me, she met my stepfather, and they got married, and they conceived my sister. And then not long after, I had my two little brothers after. Um, then I had another little brother, but that's a whole nother story on that one. Um, my upbringing wasn't the best. I'll say, let's start. My earliest memory is like when I was 7. So,
Well, before we do that, you
uh,
were talking about your parents, right?
yeah.
So it seems like both your father figures, or your real father and your biological father, or sorry, your biological father and basically, yeah, I was right. Your real father, they're
Hmm.
both from the state of Florida.
Yeah.
So, what did your mom like? Since you said your mom's from Indiana, did she like come down to Florida and?
So what happened was, she was born in Kentucky. So she then started living in Indiana when her mother married her stepfather. And then her stepfather had gotten a job out in Florida, and they all moved to Florida.
Okay, okay. So it's kind of like a situation like how you were in, where your mother went through the exact same thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, and you said you had how many siblings total?
Well, not including me. Let me see. I have my sister, my oldest youngest brother, my second, and
See, it sounds like you have three brothers and one sister.
I have 5 brothers and one sister.
Five brothers and one sister, and you are the oldest?
I am the oldest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you said that your mother and your stepfather got married when she was 16 and he was 21.
I think she
So,
was about to be turning 17 when they got married, so.
got it. So, basically the same situation as your biological father and your mother.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. All right. And you said your childhood, the first thing you remember is when you were about 7 years old?
Mhm.
Okay, go ahead.
So, I've always been need I remind you, I didn't know any of this information until I was about 13 years old. So, I always thought my stepfather was biologically my father. So I was a daddy's girl growing up. I was always with my dad. Loved my dad. Me and him got along so well. Everything. And then it started to change when I was around 7. And the reason why it started to change around 7 is, well, I had an older cousin that was basically his nephew, so his twin sister's child, oldest child. And he was about 5, 6 years older than me. Um, and around that time, my cousins were living with me. So we were all living in the same house. And as early as 7, I remember my older cousin, uh, like starting to molest me and started beating me for no apparent reason. Except he always would say to me, we're not really family kind of thing. And I never knew what that meant. Obviously, he knew it before I knew it.
Yeah,
Um,
he was older.
yeah.
Yeah, so obviously he would have known that you guys weren't family because he knew the truth and you're still so young you had no idea.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was. At first, I didn't know what anything was. You know what I mean? At 7 years old, you don't sexualize your body. You don't look at your body like that. You know what I mean? You're not curious about stuff. You're not wanting to know stuff. So, um, this happened. Him molesting me and hitting me. This happened from the time I was 7 years old all the way up until I was 14.
Oh wow.
It happened for years. Um, Come to find out that I wasn't the only one he was doing things to. So, um, I found out that he was doing inappropriate things to one of my siblings. And when I caught wind of it, that's when I sat my parents down and told them what was happening to my sibling and then also what's happening to me. Um,
Oh wow. I bet that was just a hard conversation, especially at a young age.
oh yeah, definitely. Because by this time I found out what they were doing to my other sibling. I was only years has passed since it first started beginning, so I was 10 when I sat down and told my parents that. Um, when I told them it was happening to my sibling, they were concerned. They talked to my sibling. They got my sibling counseling. They got him on medication, talked to him about it, trying to get him, the help that he needs. And obviously didn't have anything to do with that cousin that was doing the things that were doing it. But when it came to me, they didn't really believe me, nor did they care that this was happening to me. Um, they only cared about my sibling because of the fact that he was a male, if that
Oh
makes sense.
wow.
Yeah. Um, After that, me and my stepfather's relationship got rocky because the cousin I was accusing of this situation was his like first nephew, and they had a bond
Mhm.
kind of thing. So um, he would just exclude me from family events. That way he could still hang out with his nephew, kind of thing. Um, I'll say that after opening up to my parents about that, my mom didn't really do anything about it. But being the fact that, she's a rape victim herself, been through some kind of stuff, I kind of was like disheartened to, you know, see that she didn't really do anything for me, but was able to do something for my other sibling, which never made sense to me. Still to this day, never made sense to me.
I don't know why. Yeah, I don't. That doesn't make any sense either. In situations like that, you always want to go for the person that it hurts the most, and it sounds it's just in the tone of your voice. It sounds like it hurt you the most out of everybody.
Oh, 100% it did. And I'm even like choking up a little bit just even speaking about this because for me, I try to pretend like it didn't happen kind of thing and move on. But that's not how you heal. So you got to talk about it. Um, but as far as like childhood upbringing, that was happening. On top of that, let's go ahead and I'll go ahead and say this. My mother started becoming physically abusive with me when I started to turn 12 years old. So this is the part where I'm about to start hitting puberty. I'm about to start, get into that kind of realm of things growing up. My mother was actively jealous of me. She was active of like jealous of the attention I would get, jealous of how well I would do in school. Just she anything that surpassed her upcomings. I felt like I was competition to her, and she took it as that. You know?
And that doesn't make much sense because what parents are there for, they're want to see their child or children in general do better than they did. They want to
Right.
see them thrive because they don't want them to make the same mistakes that they did when they were younger. Because now they know exactly how to handle those situations. The fact that your mom did that, that's not okay. Um,
No, not at all. Um,
Having a competition with your daughter, well, there's not much of a competition. Like you were 12.
right. Well, being the fact that, she was only 16 when she had me, it's like, in a sense, you're growing up with your child. So I've never felt like my mother was my mother. I felt like my mother was more like a sibling to me than an actual mother. Um,
Okay.
my mom was really bad on drugs and alcohol. Really, really bad. I didn't notice she was really bad on drugs until the time I was 12. Um, I knew she was around it, but I didn't know she was addicted to it until I was around 12.
And what drugs was those? Was it just pills or was it anything harder?
Um, my mom, her main drug of choice was coke. But she dabbled in different things. Um,
Coke. You know that's the funny thing because usually Coke is notorious for one part of the United States, and it's where both your stepfather and your father's from, Florida. It's
right.
really notorious from Florida. So I'm wondering if she got the addiction down there when she met them.
I like to believe just because this will be in later segments as we go on through my story, but the reason why I believe my birth father is the one who got her on it is because um, he was known for being an alcoholic and being around that. And she wasn't really on drugs up until after that point. So I'm thinking that was a main contributor. And especially when something traumatic like that happens to you at 16 years old, you use drugs to cope.
Oh, absolutely. And did she have you at 16 or did she have you um before that?
She had me at 16. So she got pregnant with me at 15, had me at 16.
Okay, so she was with your she got sexually assaulted by your actual father at
Mhm.
15 and then married your stepfather at 16.
Yes.
That's a very young age to getting married to somebody that's 21 years old.
Well, let me get into that. It's funny that you bring that up is because one time it was on my birthday. I turned 10. My mom sat me down and had a conversation with me. And she decided that she was going to tell me. She didn't go into many details because remember at the time I thought my father was my father. She just basically told me at 10 years old that uh you should be thankful. I said, "Yeah, I should be. It's my birthday, whatever." She's like, "No, I mean, you should be thankful. I ruined my life." I'm like, "Ruined your life? What do you mean? I'm 10." So I'm just like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
She then proceeds to tell me that she married somebody so I could have a dad. And I was like, "What do you mean by that?" Cuz at the time I'm thinking, "You had me before you got married. So what the hell are you talking about?" You know? As a kid questioning it. Later on that year of me being 10, about to turn 11, my parents, my stepfather and my mother, had told me to clean their closet one time. And I was cleaning out their closet, and I just so happened to find paperwork in their closet where it said adoption papers and it had my name on it. And uh, I started asking questions to my mom because, like, I can fucking read. I'm not retarded, you know? but
Yeah, absolutely.
or dyslexic, but I could read. And I asked her questions like, "Hey, what's up with these adoption papers?" She goes, "Oh, I had a cat named Lexi, and that's adoption papers for a cat I got." I'm like, "Okay, why do you still have that?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" Um, this point in time, this is where the story gets crazy.
Okay.
This is the year that I was about to start either 5th or 6th grade. I cannot remember. Um, but I was living in a nice house with my stepfather, my siblings, and my mother. And my mother had a fascination with people across the street, and I could not understand why. I was like, what is her fascination with these people across the street? We just moved in not that long ago, about 2 months ago. And I'm like, what's up with these people that she's always talking to, always leaving after dinner, going straight across the street to? One time she decided to take me with her across the street
Uh
to
oh.
to this neighbor's house. And she was like, "Oh, tell them about yourself." And then she hands them a photo album of pictures of just me, not me and my siblings, nothing else, just straight pictures of me as a child. And I'm like, "What the hell?" Once the visit was over and she took me home back to the house, she then sat me down and explained to me that those are my grandparents.
What?
Those are my grandparents. Those are my biological father's grandparents.
Hold up. So you're telling me this entire time your mother knew your grandparents were across the street
Mhm.
and your grandparents had no idea who you were at the time.
They knew who I was. I just didn't know who they were.
But they didn't have any effort of if since they knew who your mother was, they didn't try to show up and
Well, you
introduce
gotta,
themselves?
well, let me explain why, as to why that is. When my mother was pregnant with me, and obviously of how I came to be into this world, there was a court hearing about the paternity test of me, and then, the criminal charges that he did against my mother. Part of his criminal charges is he had to relinquish his parental rights to me. Um, So, in order for that to go through, my mom had to be married and in a stable home. That's where my stepfather came in.
Okay.
Yeah, my birth father's grandparents were there in court, and they were not entitled to grandparents' rights because the father he relinquished his rights. So therefore, there's no such thing as grandparents' rights if he doesn't have parental rights to me. So does that
I see.
yeah does that make sense?
It does. It definitely makes sense. So you basically knew who your grandparents were at that time. Was that your only interaction with them, or did you have any more interactions with them?
I let me get into that. All right. So after my mom sat me down and told me those are my grandparents, I was like, "What are you talking about? I know my grandparents because at this time I still did not know that I was adopted." I'm like, "What are you talking about? You have extra set of parents?" You know what I mean? Um, she at this point in time she didn't say anything, but the following day after, an ambulance was outside the neighbor's house across the street, and it turns out that my grandmother died.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. My grandmother died, and my grandfather was the only one living, and he had to go live in a living facility because he couldn't be living alone. And I have never heard from them since. Never heard nothing of them. But that same day that my grandmother died, my mom comes crushing through the door, sat me down, and basically told me everything. How it came to be, how I came to be in this world, and who's my father and whose family, what sucks is she waited too late in order for me to build even a relationship with my biological grandmother because she's dead.
Wow, that's horrible. I think every child should know who their grandparents are. I think every child should know wh- who's family really, because family is a very important thing, and me and you have talked about this many times on
Yeah.
how important we think family is just in general. Um, that so your grandmother died.
Mm-hmm. And that same day, my stepfather had just came home from work. My mom just got done telling me everything, and she hands me this big black binder filled with all the police reports, all the police statements of what happened to her with my birth father, the paternity test proving he is my father. Just a big black binder filled with all of the information. And me being young, I'm trying to take in all this information. Like I'm sitting here thinking that my father is my father. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
absolutely.
Um, Never in a million years did I think anything else. But my stepfather had come home from work and he seen me crying a little bit on the couch, and my mom was just kind of distraught sitting there. My stepfather was like, "Hey, what's going on? What happened? Why is everyone boohoo crying?" Type stuff.
Yeah,
My mom basically said to him in just subtle words, "I told her." And he goes, "Told her what?" My mom was like, "I told her." And he goes, "Really? She's not old enough for this kind of stuff. Like, why would you sit there and do that? Why would you ruin that kind of thing?" So they kind of like bickered back and forth. I'm over here in tears, staring at a damn binder. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? My whole world just got flipped upside down in a matter of just a fucking 24 hours.
absolutely. And you're so young, so you had no idea. Like, you didn't know how to grieve. You didn't know how to take that news.
No, not at all. Like, how are you supposed to take that? I mean, imagine putting yourself in that situation. How are you supposed to take that? Everything you knew about yourself is all bullshit. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for my personal experience, and obviously we'll have my own shows for this. And at that point, Lex will be the host.
Well,
That's going to
damn.
be interesting. But, um, yeah, to me, family's everything. Like, I, I never got to know my mom's dad because my mom's dad died when she was 10 years old. So I only knew my grandma and then my dad's parents, and grandparents are everything. Like, you don't have very many. You have four total,
Yeah. If you're
and once
lucky,
they're
that.
gone, yeah, and once they're gone, they're gone. Like, you can't get them back. I mean, yes, you can marry into other families, but
Hmm.
it's not the same.
It's not. And people, and that's one of my many issues. But we'll get into that at a later date. But
Oh, absolutely. And just to make this a little bit dragged out a little bit, take a little bit of break so you can have a breather. Like I was saying, over the next 10 weeks, we will be showing your story, a little outlook on your story. Next week's episode is going to be your teenage years, so junior high, and we'll stick it to junior high. We have an episode of you in high school, we have an episode of you in college. We've had an episode of how me and you met. We have an episode of a figure that I'm going to bring up right now that you met. Um, and we're going to have a large discussion about that. But he goes by the name of Zan. And yes, we can use that name because it's not his legal name. He has no trademarks on it. So we can go ahead and blast him like that. Like I
well,
said,
he
this is unedited and uncut.
well, I just will want to make a comment because I'm a petty bitch. Zans ain't shit anyway. Just saying, Xanax ain't shit. Don't do it. Say no to drugs.
Yeah, yeah. Say no to drugs, everybody. But getting back to your story, I know you were talking about your childhood, and before we get into some of your childhood stories, I just want a little. I'll ask you a little bit of questions just to extend this topic a little bit. Um, During your childhood, what was your favorite present you got? Doesn't have to be on Christmas, doesn't have to be on your birthday, because I know you you had a rough childhood growing up. And
Yeah,
what present stuck out to you the most? Because I know that it's not always about value; it's about what it meant to you.
yeah. Um, I'll say this: it was around Christmas time. M- Uh, my gift I got from my grandmother, which is my stepfather's mother, and y'all learn out throughout the whole series of me talking about my life that that woman's my favorite person ever in the whole entire world. But my grandmother, she saw that I was becoming interested in playing instruments, and she always thought of out of all of her grandkids, I was going to be the talented one, the one that stood out, the one, that made something of herself, kind of thing. So I told her I wanted to be a rock star, and she was going to make sure I was going to be a rock star. So she decided that she was going to gift me an electric guitar with an amplifier for Christmas. And uh, that meant everything to me, not because of it being an electric guitar and so nice and fancy. It just showed that the one person that was consistent in my life that believed in me was still going to be there regardless. And it was just a reminder that I always had her in my corner. And that felt amazing.
Oh, I bet it is. Like I was saying, it's not about the value of the gift, and sometimes those gifts are the best. Getting something that is important to you is amazing. It could be even a food item. It doesn't even have to be something. It just knowing that the person you care about the most in this world got you a gift,
Yeah, for sure.
and with your childhood being so bad to you. I know that me and you discussed this. I don't remember exactly when it was. If it was in your teenage years, it could be a little sneak peek for next week.
Uh huh.
Um, there is a crazy story of your mother trying to sell you.
Oh, yeah, that's later. That's later. But I can give you a little snippet. Um, my mom sold me for it was I believe it was 10,000. It could have been 20,000, anywhere between 10,000 to $20,000. My mom basically accepted money from a woman who was trying to buy her adult female daughter a girlfriend, pretty much.
Got it. I swear I thought it was earlier in your life, but now that you say that, now I know it's gonna be in a couple of weeks. It's not gonna be next week. It's gonna be in a
Mhm.
couple of weeks.
Yeah,
Um, that itself is going to be a large portion
yeah,
of
a lot.
what that podcast will be about.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't doubt it. That's a lot to unpack.
Absolutely, and some of the things that people might want to know when you're from when you were a child. What was some of the stuff that you like? Like, what was your favorite color? What did you want to? What did your childhood self wanted you to be when you grew up?
Oh god, I was a completely different person then. At the time when I was a kid, my favorite color was yellow, and I've always wanted to be um, a doctor of some sort. I wanted to, more specifically, I wanted to be an eye doctor. Um,
Got it.
yeah, just for personal reasons. That's all. Just for
Exactly, and we won't be getting into those personal reasons. If she wants to at a later date in a later podcast, she can. But I wouldn't be surprised that she wanted to be like that. A little snippet of my story and arc that we will be going into, probably the next 2 months, because I'm gonna have Lex write it.
heck yeah.
um, I honestly wanted to be a scientist when I was a kid.
What? Really?
Yeah, because my third grade teacher, she was a scientist, and I enjoyed the hell out of her. She was the older lady. Her name was Miss Snow. Um, Bless her heart. I'm pretty positive she's probably passed at this time. Because that was in 2003, and
Uh,
I believe she was most likely in her 70s or 80s back then, maybe 60s. And I just can't find any information on her. I've been looking for years and years and years. If anybody's listening and knows who that is, have her reach out to me. Um, it'd be awesome to hear her and make sure she's okay because the thing I remember the most, her favorite food was pumpkin pie.
I love pumpkin pie. Let's talk about pumpkin pie. That that sounds so
Yeah,
good.
no, absolutely. Talk about some of your favorite things when you were a child. What was your favorite food growing up?
Oh, growing up, uh, I loved anything sweet. Most particularly, as any kid would, I was obsessed with chocolate. Okay, so I would just go crazy for any kind of thing that was chocolate.
What kind of chocolate
Yeah,
specifically? Because I know there's a many blunt brands, and we don't have the good brands here in the states like they have around the world. But what was your favorite candy bar?
well, it wasn't a bar. It was more so. I mean, I had a favorite one. Well, as a child, my favorite candy bar was Crunch. I like Crunch.
Ooh, do you like those crunch bites that you can get at the theaters
Oh
or
my
the
god,
clusters?
yes, the clusters.
Oh, you know what's even better? When you
What?
have vanilla ice cream and sprinkle that on top with some chocolate syrup and caramel. Oh,
So you're basically wanting me to have a food gasm. Thank you.
absolutely. If you're not gonna have a food gasm, what's the point of eating?
That's true. That is
Yeah, and yes, I'm a foodie. Lex is obviously a foodie.
heck yeah.
Um, sh- there's nothing wrong with being a foodie. If food tastes good, let it.
Mm,
Why? Why limit yourself? Why um, limit your palate? Because a lot of people want to stay fit, but everybody has a fat kid inside them.
fuck that. You know what I just realized? Why in the fuck are we putting ourselves through fucking hell with diet and exercise when we all know damn well we all about to die? We all gonna end up either fucking burned to ashes or buried 6 feet deep. So why the fuck does it matter?
Absolutely. Well, and also if you realize, Lex, in the Roman days and back before all this processed food, being fit wasn't a sign of wealth. Being fat was a sign of wealth back then.
Right. Because you had more food to eat, therefore you had more currency.
Exactly. And I think we should make a trend. I mean, yeah, you don't want to be how, you know what, I'm going to call them out like Lizzo or like Tessa Holiday, for example. You might know who that is. A lot of people that are listening is going to know who that is. And we're going to get canceled, say I'm fat shaming. No, I'm not fat shaming. I'm just saying the being that big isn't natural.
No.
I'm also on the overweight side, but I don't let that define me. And I also don't want special treatment from everybody else. I still do things just like everybody else. I go bowling with my friends. I go everywhere else. There's nothing that prevents me from doing anything. I don't want to limit myself.
And you shouldn't. You shouldn't. There's no purpose of limiting yourself. Not at all.
Absolutely. And going back to your childhood, since we're kind of flip flopping just so we can get an idea of who Lex is, at least in her childhood years, what was your favorite animal during that time frame?
Um, my favorite animal has always been consistent. My favorite animal has always been a cat.
Any specific cat or just a house cat?
Um, Specific cat would be Persian. I like Persian cat.
Ooh. Did you happen to play Pokemon growing up?
Not like that. I played it here and there with a few cousins, but nothing where I was invested in it.
Damn, I was gonna say because there was a in at least in the original 151, there is a cat named Persian, and it is a Persian cat.
Wow.
Yeah, I was gonna say that would
How
probably have
original.
been it was, and honestly, the original Pokemon 151 was the best. We didn't have these weird ones like nowadays. We have a fucking ice cream cone that's a ghost. It's
What?
weird. I think they ran out of ideas because they have over 1,000 now.
Gotcha. Okay, so they're running on fumes.
Yeah, Absolutely, they're running on fumes. Speaking about childhood games, did you play any video games when you were growing up?
Um, yeah, actually, matter of fact, I was a really big gamer as a child. Um, I that was kind of my escape from my reality because my parents were really, 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 really strict. Not because they wanted to protect me, but for other reasons. But
They
I
wanted to shelter you, basically.
not really shelter me. It was more so I was the built-in babysitter.
Ah, yeah, like how all the oldest are. That's exactly how I was as well.
Yeah, but it was worse than what you would
Oh, absolutely. I understand. I'm just saying, like, usually the oldest is the
babysitter. The
babysitter, and you have no choice.
Nope, not at all. Um, yeah, but I was a really big gamer. I used to play all the time with my oldest youngest brother. I don't want to give names out,
No, absolutely. You don't have to give any names out.
um, but he was the oldest out of all my youngest brothers, and he actually that's how me and him bonded a lot. Is me and him would play video games, COD more specifically, but I he even helped me come up with my gamer tag. I don't know if you remember, I told you this, but my gamer tag used to be unicorn laxative.
I do remember that. And let's see. So if you were born in, let's see, you're 26, so you would have been born a year before after my brother. So 1998.
Mhm.
So that Call of Duty you must have been playing was probably like Black Ops, the original Black Ops.
The original Black Ops, yep.
Got it. One of the best games in my opinion.
It
And
is.
honestly, I think this podcast is going to be mutating because I know that we can't talk about horror all the time.
Right.
And we're going to keep that on Fridays, but I think during the week we definitely will be talking about just normal things, just about life, make it an everyday podcast, and I think that'd be good. And we'll do it in 3 minute segments on YouTube.
Mhm.
So make sure you guys check that out. Um, and now that I cut into the time, now you can. What's some of the childhood stories? Some of the funny stories, something, or some that you want to tell that is out of this world?
Um wow. There's so many. Where do I start? Let's see. I would have to say, oh, okay. This has in turn with my childhood. So this stays on topic. Perfect. The first time I met my biological father.
Oh,
Yeah. Um so it was really late at night. My mom was like, "Hey, you want to go for a ride with me?" I was like, sure, why not?" I never got out the house. I never did. So I was like, I'm gonna take advantage of me getting out the house. so
absolutely.
so I'm gonna go ride with her. So we pull up to this house. Not and we don't stop in the driveway. We stop at the street towards like the yard area, but still in the street. Park outside the house kind of thing.
Hmm.
And my mom has a conversation with me and she goes, "There's someone I want you to meet. It's someone that's beneficial for you. I think would be better for you, and I think you should know where you come from." I'm like, what? like, like, what are you talking about, lady? I thought we were going for a drive. I'm thinking that I might, convince her to give me some McDonald's or something, but no. Um, so a couple minutes go by and someone pops out the house, and I'm
Oh
like,
shit.
yeah. I was like, what the hell? Who the fuck this is? Um, So my mom's like, "Get out the car." I'm like, "Okay." I get out the car, stand by her at the driver's side window, and this guy walks up and he goes, "Hi, how are you?" I was like, stranger danger. I don't talk to strangers," kind of thing. Like, who are you? Like, I'm sorry. Mom's like, "It's okay for you to talk to him," and I was like, "Okay, I'm good. How are you?" And he goes, "Well, I'm your father." I'm like,
Oh shit.
I was like, uh,
I wonder
okay.
how your mom actually got him to do that because he had a no contact order.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder how the hell she got him to do that because that's basically against the law what he did.
Mhm, and she allowed it.
That is crazy.
Mhm. and that's how I met him. She then forced me to hug him, and me knowing everything that I know, she basically made me hug a rapist. You know what I'm saying?
I absolutely know, and that's that's definitely a rough subject. And I think that's one of the 3 minute subjects we probably have on YouTube.
Hell yeah.
Um, that's just horrible. So you met your father.
Hmm.
Was it just like a quick hi, how you doing, and you bailed, or
It was a quick little 10-15 minute conversation. He asked me how I was doing in school, what I like to do, what's my favorite things, kind of thing, just trying to get to know me. And he asked me some questions that I thought were odd. And he was like, "Oh, did you ever get your glasses?" And at the time, I didn't have any glasses, and I was supposed to have glasses, but we were broke as hell. I didn't have no glasses. Come to find out, when we're leaving after the conversation was said and we're heading back to the house, she basically told me, "You're not allowed to tell your stepfather what I did today." Um, and about the glasses thing, yeah, he lent me money because he thought he was buying you glasses, but in reality, I needed a bill paid. I was like,
oh
"Oh,"
wow,
I was like, "Ah, okay." And then I started,
that's messed up.
yeah, I started to question or not whether this sexual assault thing really happened, because me being a victim of rape and molestation from a really young age, even to as an adult, um my first thing is, I don't give a goddamn how much money somebody has. I am not going to go reach out to the person who violated me that way and ask them for a goddamn thing. So that, as a child, and her making me do that just so she can get money out of him, it was just a really sick and twisted game that I was not mentally capable of dealing with.
Yeah, and honestly, that actually brings up a topic of that is how the justice system works when it comes to paternity. I hate to say it, but a lot of times the male in the situation or the father gets screwed out of a lot.
Mm,
Um, they always trust the mother, no matter what the mother has done.
that's
Um,
true. It's true.
they always go after the father for child support, even if he didn't agree to have the child.
Yeah.
Um, I know there's a huge topic right now of females females rights and all that, but
Hmm.
I didn't want to get political, but it's it's a flawed system. If they're going to make even a female, if they're going to make the female pay child support or the male, if the other parent didn't agree with having that child, I think the person that, if it's a female that wanted the child, she should have the whole burden, in my opinion.
Respectfully, I agree. I do. I agree. Wholeheartedly. Um, Not everyone, yes, I agree. People should take extra precautions when having sexual intercourse with somebody, of course. But sometimes things do happen. And unfortunately, some people are just not ready for the commitment of being a parent. And if they let you know early on, not say late in your pregnancy after you guys been talking about it and everything was good, and then change your mind last second, no, that's different. Um,
Absolutely.
for me, if you're saying this early on in the get go, when you find out and you're just like, hey, I really don't think I can be a parent right now. I don't want this. But if you want to keep the baby, I'm just saying I don't want anything to do with this, kind of thing. Having a mature conversation about it.
I absolutely agree, and this actually brings up a topic. If any athlete or any music star or anything is anybody's listening and wants to come on the show and tell your story, I'll put out. I believe Lex will be more than welcome to let you talk. I know I would, even if she doesn't want to be included in the show. I definitely would because I wanted this originally. I wanted this podcast to be a platform for people, the voice of the voiceless, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, because I in the same paternity battle that we were just talking about, I believe athletes and rock stars or rap stars get the shit under the stick because females basically rip the condoms or they induce the pregnancy themselves just because they want the money.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of people like that. Just like the same we could say about, just so people don't think we're just attacking women. Just so you know, there's guys who say that we're going to wear a condom and then don't. There's guys who poke holes in shit and try to get girls pregnant on purpose. Same goes for that route.
Oh, absolutely. There's a even if a female wants to come on the show and speak her story, there's not going to be any censoring. There's no scripts. We're not showing any sponsors this because we're a new podcast. So there's no way we can get canceled on this kind of situation.
Yeah.
Everybody's free to talk about whatever they want. If you want to reach out, we're on social media. Um, in the description of the video, I will leave our Twitter, I will leave our Facebook, and I'll leave our TikTok because we do have a TikTok. It was my old TikTok, but I converted it to our podcast TikTok, so we have a way for people to reach out to us.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely, if you guys really want to be on the podcast itself, feel free to reach out to Zach or myself, and we'll be more than happy to have you on. Um, I'm really interested in, hearing other people's stories and what they've been through, what their opinions might be, and just coming together and have a good conversation and collaboration. You know, something to be fun.
Absolutely, and throughout all of a society, from the beginning, from the dawn of the caveman, debate was a huge topic for everybody. But you have to have a healthy debate. If your feelings are going to get hurt, you're still more than welcome to come on the podcast. But just know that if you get your feelings hurt, that's on you.
Yeah, that's at your own risk. I'm not here to sugarcoat shit. If you don't like what I,
Yeah,
you can respectfully disagree. You know.
absolutely, and it's healthy to disagree because everybody needs to get their point across. But your point might not be right, and that's okay. Not everybody's right in any situation.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we're running. We have about 8 minutes left because we're going to keep this episode about an hour. And yes, you'll hear me have these kind of things. Like I said, unedited, uncut, raw, because there's too much perfection in the world. From podcasts to movies to TV shows to everything. Everything is so perfect. And hearing somebody's emotions, like how Lex got emotional, and hearing how I had to mute a couple of times because I'm drinking a carbonated beverage. You're human, and making a unique podcast and having people, if they have the other kids, it's human nature. And I think as when this podcast it starts um, being listened to a lot more people, and we have a lot more people on the podcast, I think that's going to be our caveat. We'll still do the movie reviews every Friday. We'll
Hmm.
still do our clapper stories. By the way, we're going to start that this Wednesday. It'll be live on I believe Apple Podcast. I don't know exactly where we're going to put it. We might completely stay on Spotify. I don't know yet, but that is going to be a 45-minute episode of me and Lex talking about how me and her met, how we have this crazy app called Clapper.
Oh
Um,
God, please don't download it unless you want to ruin your fucking. Like seriously, don't download the app unless you love drama and love being in it. Don't do it.
Absolutely. And the Clapper that is now is not how it was when me and Lex started.
Not at all. Not at all.
When me and Lex started, and you know what? It's going to be a preview of the Clapper stories that we're going to have on Wednesday.
Oh,
Um, how me and Lex started was it was a a simpler times on Clapper. If you got 10 people in your chat in your room at once, that was a lot of people.
right.
Um, I remember I'm going to name her because even though she is very very drama driven, she's the one that ultimately introduced me to Lex. She went by Little Bit or Olivia.
Or a
I
little bit.
know Lex.
My bad.
Yeah, Lex calls her Little Bitch. Um, and honestly, I still would love to have a conversation with her, just so you can clear the air, so she can get off her high horse, kind of thing.
So you want me to rearrange her face through the phone?
Yes,
That's okay. All right.
yes, because it's I want 2025 to, and I know we're not going to do it to one specific person, and I'll tell you who it is shortly. But I just want to have a clear air of things. I'd love to have Stat on this podcast, just so
Oh,
he can tell his story. That's going to be an interesting chapter.
oh god,
Um,
why? Ew.
there's actually, I'm going to rephrase that. There's two people I don't want on this podcast. One is Bo, because I do not associate myself with child molesters.
Not at all.
Um, and he's been caught multiple times. The
Mhm.
other one is Zan. He will never be a guest. He'll never be featured. He'll never have the ability to be on this podcast.
Anyone who knows Zan, fuck you. I'm sorry. I had to. I was a little petty. Yeah, I might want to add that about me. Yeah, I'm kind of petty.
Oh, absolutely. She is definitely petty. But so, what Clapper is, I'll give you a little bit of backstory, and Lex can kind of fill in the holes where I don't remember.
Okay.
Um, Clapper is a TikTok knockoff. Um, and it wasn't as big as it is now. Like I said, having 10 people in your room at a time was a big deal. And it wasn't how it was over the summer where it was all spicy. It
Yeah,
was more of a social platform where people would just talk and talk and talk. Um, Now it is going towards back to where it was just people talking and talking because they're getting rid of the spicy. And sorry to all my my sexual workers out there. That's not the place you want to be. Um,
not at all. If
there's different outlets, and honestly, I think next week for our clapper, if I can get somebody that did that, I kind of want their opinions on it. I know you did it for a short period of time, but
Mhm.
I just feel like we should give somebody an outlet.
100%. Yeah, definitely. I will say, if any sex workers are watching, I'm with Zach when I say I do not recommend it at all, just because the pay is not worth it. The stress you put yourself through is not worth it. The drama that comes with that app is definitely not worth it. Um, especially for those who are thinking about getting into sex work, and especially if you have low self esteem, this is not going to boost your self esteem. This is not going to boost your confidence. If anything, it is going to make it so much worse. Um, just because it is like a live interaction kind of thing. Yes, you can do it on different platforms, but for this, it's anybody and everybody is welcome. And there's actually been some situations where children were found on that app. So it is,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I would be very mindful, very careful before deciding to do that kind of work, especially on that app, Clapper.
Absolutely. And we'll go more in depth on it on Wednesday because it'll be our first one. Um, but yeah, I know you don't agree with a lot of people, but I think we just need to clean the slate. And just give them, because it's going to be good content. If they want to have an argument, they'll have an argument on the internet for everybody to see.
Oh, if they want to make an ass of themselves, by all means, I'd love to make them an ass.
Absolutely. And honestly, if we want to have a drama hour, we'll have a drama hour so we can get everything situated because I know we both moved on from all that.
Yeah.
And I just believe that giving people the outlet so we can get their side of the story so we can finally bury the hatchet and just move on so they can finally be out of our life for good is a good thing.
I mean, they're already out of my life for good. But if you, this is mostly for you. I don't really care for that.
Oh, I know you don't care for that, but it's just like anything that I know you don't want to know everything, but it's just if anything you wanted to say to them one last time kind of thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind saying fuck you one more time. That's fine.
Absolutely. And I honestly, that won't be for a while because we'd have to have a fan base that wants that.
Right.
So over the next couple of weeks, we'll have some of our friends come on the podcast.
Hell yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and I think the first ones we should have. Um, hmm. So I talked to Star, and she said she didn't want to do at least the clapper side of it. Um, We can have like Gypsy, we could have like Savage, Mama, and obviously these are all their usernames because we're not going to give their real names out just for security purposes.
Right.
Um, yeah, I think we should have, even if we have two of them, hell, let's see if Gypsy and Savage would want to do it.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Let's reach out to them and see what they'd say about it.
Absolutely. And we just hit our hour mark. Thank you so much, Lex. This is the first chapter of many that we are going to be covering. We kind of got off track a little bit just because I know that childhood wasn't a big part because you don't remember a lot of it. And a lot of it you suppressed in your mind that you don't want to remember.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But thank you so much. We have another episode on Wednesday. So I'll probably upload this episode on Tuesday, and I'll upload the Wednesday episode on Wednesday because it's only going to be about a 45-minute to an hour episode as well.
Awesome sauce. I love it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lex, because I know this was a hard subject for you to go under, but we're gonna get used to this. It's gonna be your new diary.
Of course. And I just want to say thank you, Zach, for making me feel so comfortable to be able to speak with you about that. And I appreciate it very much.
Always, I'm always here to make sure everybody's comfortable. That's why I said if anybody wants to be on this podcast that has a crazy story, I'll make a day. I am free every day. Um, of this upcoming Saturday, I'll be doing a solo podcast. Obviously, Lex, if she wants to join, I will have a invite link, so she can join mid conversation if she wanted to. It's just going to be me talking about the Royal Rumble. So that's going to be fun. It's going to be a solo thing. It's just going to be my opinion, my predictions for potentially WrestleMania that me and Lex might be doing a live vlog from. We don't know.
Hell yeah. That'd be fun as hell.
Yeah, that just depends. So the day I'm looking for is April 19th. Because it is a 2-day show in Las Vegas, April 19th and 20th.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the 19th. It depends. We'll talk obviously off this, but thank you guys so much for joining. Um, you guys are amazing. For any listeners, I know our audio is not perfect, but me and Lex will be um, starting to purchase items for this podcast. So our audio, I think the first thing we're gonna get is those wireless microphones that you can put on your collar.
Right. Definitely. We're definitely going to do that. And thank you guys so much for watching. On top of that, thank you for being patient with us. As we're still trying to learn as we go. So every podcast that we do, we're learning to upgrade and be better and hopefully be better for all of you guys. So you guys, subscribe and stuff.
Absolutely, subscribe, like, share it out. We are live. We're not live, but we are on YouTube, where you can see Lex's beautiful face. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on TikTok. And any of those are going to be the same. The Haole and Hapa podcast on every platform. That is all of it. There's not an asper sign or whatever it's called. It's just an and. So yeah, hit us up there. If you want to be on it, also hit us up there. Any last words, Lex?
Y'all have a great week.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much and have a good night.